Well, howdy, everybody. Hi. Is everybody having a nice cruise so far? A lot of great moments already. I'm so grateful to y'all for coming. I had this idea last year. I sat down with the folks at Star Vista, and I said, guys, we have so many amazing musicians on this boat. Can we do a talk show? And they said yes, which meant that I actually had to do it, which is... The topic today is serious sidemen. And guys, I gotta tell you, the guys that we're chatting with today are some of the best, we don't have any kids here, some of the best damn musicians on the planet. We are so lucky to have them. Every year I get on, and it's a gift to everybody, because we all get to hang out with each other too and get to know each other. It's so fun. We've got Randall Bramblett. Show of hands. We know Randall? Good, because if I had one ask of you, it's that if you don't know Randall Bramblett, please go see a Randall Bramblett show. If you're not familiar with him, you're going to love what he does. A lot of us know Bob Britt, I hope. Do we know Bob? Bob has been on this boat for 15 years with Delbert, but we're going to get into who else he's played with. It's an incredible life that he's had. And we have Leland Sklar on the boat with us. If you don't know who Leland Sklar is, trust me when I tell you that you know who Leland Sklar is, because you've been listening to maybe one of the 25,000 records. 25,000 records. If I just started just naming the artists that he's played with, we could just do that for the next hour, but we wouldn't even get close to touching it. So we have some amazing musicians. Randall Bramblett began his career with a band called Sea Level. I don't know if there's any Sea Level fans in the crowd, but I got to tell you, amongst not just fans, but amongst musicians, Sea Level is revered. Randall was such a huge part of that. He was a huge part of Steve Winwood's band for many years. He was played with Bonnie Raitt. He's played with Widespread Panic. He's played, the list goes on and on and on. He's also, I think, in my humble opinion, one of the finest American lyricists of the last 50 years. Truly, he is a brilliant cat. We are lucky to have him. Please welcome to our little stage here, Randall Bramblett. Randall, my friend, please have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Now, Randall, I have to confess, I'm a little irritated with you because I make my living as a saxophone player. And you're a better saxophone player than me, but you're also an amazing piano player. You're a phenomenal singer, and you're my favorite songwriter in the world. I'm not kidding, yeah. When I heard you were on the boat, I was like, oh my God, Randall Bramblett's on. I couldn't even believe it. My question for you to start with is this, that you do so many things and you do them so well. When you start writing a song, where does it start for you? Does it start with a lyric? Does it start with a melody? Does it start on the saxophone, the piano? Where does it begin?
Well, thanks for all that intro, by the way. I've never had such a great intro in my life. Writing songs, I stopped writing for a while because I got sober. This was in the early 80s, and I could not write. I was so freaked out trying to write without chemicals and alcohol and everything. Anyway, I started slowly writing again, and a lot of that came from like reading The Artist Way, that Julia Cameron book, which helps you just, instead of criticizing yourself, just write it down when you have an idea. Just keep writing for 3 pages a day. And so I started doing that, and then every once in a while I would get a scene or a feeling or something that came, and I would put that in the back of the journal I was writing, because it's much easier for me to start writing a song with an idea and or a scene or just a phrase than it is for me to go down. I can go down and play piano or guitar and come up with chord changes and a melody, but trying to find the right lyrics is the hard part for me. So having a phrase or something, I can just go down to my studio and just, it's easy just to, I can sing this phrase and I can come up with the rest of it much easier. So it usually starts with words.
I was hoping that was going to be the case.
Oh, yeah?
Because my next question for you, in my mind, when I listen to one of your songs, it's a whole movie. The amount of attention that you give to such minute parts of the world is just fascinating to me. I was wondering, who are your favorite authors, man? Who are you reading? Who influenced you as a lyricist coming up? Who are your folks?
Whoa, these are hard questions.
Oh, no! This isn't fair because I've had months to sit down and think about what I wanted to ask Randall Bramblett. And Randall met me yesterday, actually, because he was like, hey, man, you know, he broke his arm. He's like, could you play some horn section stuff for me? And I was like, yeah, of course, anything you want, Randall. And I was like, oh, by the way, I'm interviewing you too, and I have 57 very specific questions that I want to ask you about the last 50 years of your life. So
look, I just came on this cruise to have some fun, you know? Damn it. All right.
Welcome to the hot seat, my friend.
Look, I got all wrapped up in the beat writers, you know, for a long time, and Kerouac and Ginsberg and all those people, and Bukowski, and, you know, those kind of off-kilter writers I love to read, and that's, you know, as far as lyricists, I don't try to write real straight usually. It's usually a scene or a feel, and one thing leads to another, and, you know, eventually the song, I just play with it like a puzzle, and eventually it means something. Now, it might not mean something to a lot of other people, but somehow it feels all right to me. And a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I love that song. What's it mean, you know? But I don't know. I just play with things for a while until I feel satisfied. It might take a year. I had this, I also write from hearing people talk. Somebody told one of the guys, and I won't tell you what band it was, but I was playing with Winwood, and we had an opening band, and he was telling me he's from New Orleans. He said, me and Mac Rabenak, we both got all cleaned up, and we stopped doing the drugs, and we hadn't seen each other in years. And I was walking down the street in New York City, and damn if he didn't just walk right by me. We said, and they were friends, you know, and he said, man, how you doing, Mac? And Mac said, Johnny, I feel so good, I'm going to throw my cane away.
I love that
about
song.
20 years later, I finally wrote that song.
That is one of my favorites, and I love that story, man.
It's true. It's true.
Speaking of Dr. John, I love your piano playing, and I just wanted to ask you, you know, not just, you know, we've touched on some of the writing. As a musician, you're growing up. Who are the first folks, man? Who are the guys where you went, oh my God, that's the joyful noise that I want to make?
Musically?
Yes.
It was, well, of course, it started out with just this R&B stuff I was hearing on the radio, especially WLAC in Nashville. I lived down in South Georgia, and it somehow jumped down there. You could hear it late at night, and I had a transistor radio, and they were playing gospel and blues and, you know, stuff you would never hear, I would never hear. And that's when I fell in love with, you know, black music. And then, of course, Bob Dylan came along, and I fell in love with him. So now I got a cross between black music and Bob Dylan.
That recipe,
it's not that bad.
I love it.
Funky.
Yeah. Man, what a joy. In reference to that, you've played with some of the giants of the last 50 years of music, and I'm wondering, you're like a human Swiss Army knife. When you come into a situation where you've been at, right? I mean, seriously, not many people are doing this sort of thing. When you get that call, how do you adapt what you do as a musician to the world of another artist?
To the world what?
To the world of the artist that you're playing with. You know, if it's Winwood or Panic or any of these guys that you've spoken into their music, how do you do it?
Oh, man, you ask hard questions.
Don't worry, we've got some real easy ones coming up.
Oh, good. I just want to have fun. I don't want to have to think. Jeez.
I've only got you for 15 minutes, Randall, so I got to grill you while I got you. I might never see you again, baby.
All right,
this I probably won't.
I've only gotten pretty much, I haven't played with a ton of people, but the people that called me, I love their music already. You know, like Steve Winwood, I was a big Traffic fan when I was in college, and You know,
Can you imagine getting the phone call from Steve Winwood? Did he just pick up? He heard you in C level, I imagine. How did he
well,
find
look,
you?
it was his musical director, not Steve, that called me. I was in school at the time. I figured my musical career is done. And I, didn't know I had a family then. I said, I'm going back to school, be a social worker.
Yes, you actually got a master's in social work, I believe.
I did, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was about halfway through social work school, and I got that call. And I hadn't been playing for a year, really a couple of years. I hadn't really been playing much. But I said, yes, I'll do it. Yes. And they said, come to Nashville, we start rehearsal. And it was Russ Kunkel and Michael Rhodes and all these great players. And I was freaked out.
I can't even imagine.
I wanted to do it, but I wasn't up to snuff yet. But I practiced and practiced. And eventually, I got the gig, and they kept calling me back. But I just did what he said. Whatever. You need piano? Okay, I can do that. You need sax? You want me to sing backgrounds? So we just kept doing that. And it's amazing I got to be with some of these people that I looked up to so much. Levon Helm, too. Same thing,
I was going to get there,
He's
yeah.
one of my heroes. I got to be there to support him, too. So it's just like dreams coming true.
You were the only guy that made it through. You were with Winwood for 16 years, I believe, man.
Yeah, of course, he didn't play every year. He played according to what he was releasing. I mean, if an album came out, he would play long tours. But then he did start playing when Traffic. They did a redo of Traffic, a reformation of Traffic, and Jim Capaldi, and we played a lot behind that. That was my favorite stuff, Traffic stuff.
Man, I can't imagine what a great gift that must have been. So fun. Randall, some of the harmonic decisions you make in your songs are some of my favorite things in music. You take a lot of big risks, things there's always a groove that underpins it, that's familiar and beautiful, but then, man, you'll throw this Hail Mary pass on this chord change, or you'll throw this Hail Mary pass of a lyric, and you always catch it. It's just a miraculous thing. How do you know when a song is done?
How do I what?
How do you know when your song is done? How do you know when it's baked?
Yeah, you mean in the studio and all the way through?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just start feeling good, Otherwise, you got an itch you cannot scratch, So we just play with it, and we play with it. It's like me and my producer are good best friends, and we've been working together forever. So we just say, yeah, let's try this right here. Let's commit. Let's do something strange here and commit, even if it's wrong,
You do.
We just go, if it's wrong, we say, nah, we took a chance, but that's wrong. But I like to try to stay on the edge. I mean, that's what Traffic was doing. They were on the edge, They were just doing stuff that nobody had done, and that was always attractive to me. I listened to Charles Lloyd and Ornette Coleman and people that were all pushing the boundaries.
I knew you were an Ornette guy.
Really?
Yes. Thank you.
And Joe Henry.
Yes.
Mitchell Froom, Chad Blake, all these people that were pushing the boundaries. That feels good to me. But I appreciate, the straight ahead music too. But I love in my music to try to push some. Try to do something a little different.
Randall, if there was someone in the audience who wasn't familiar with your catalog, if there was someone that was just going to go and get their first Randall Bramblett record, where would you like for them to start in your catalog?
The first one. Devil Music, I guess.
Yes.
Devil Music is, that's another true story about Howlin' Wolf. Howlin' Wolf, he found his mother left him with his little kid, baby. And he found his mother in a little town in Mississippi after he'd gotten famous as a blues man. He and his band were traveling in a big Pontiac of Wolf's, and they found his mother in this little town. And he ran up to her and he's like, Mama, it's great to see you again. I'm a successful blues man, and I'm going to give you some money. And she said, get away from me, devil. You playing the devil's music. And they said, Wolf cried all the way to Memphis. And that's the way the song starts. Wolf cried all the way to Memphis because his mama turned him turn him away. So it's a true story. I asked his guitar player, we were playing a festival together, and it's Hubert Sumlin is his guitar player. I said, Hubert, is that a true story about Wolf, you know? And he cried all the way to Memphis with y'all in the car with him and everything. He was still crying. And Hubert said, yeah, she slammed the door in my face too. He said she wouldn't even come to his funeral. Now that's the blues. You know, you finally find your mama, and she turned on you.
One of my favorite blues lyrics is nobody loves me but my mother, and she might be jiving too. And I guess in that case she was. That is the blues. That's Randall, the blues. You've made it through the hard questions. Can I ask you some easy questions?
Yes, please.
When are you playing for the first time on this boat? Because everyone has these schedules. There's so many things to do. When's the first show?
Tomorrow at noon at Seaview. That's the name of that?
Yeah.
The Seaview stage, right?
Seaview, okay.
The big stage.
Okay, now, I have some speed round questions for you. Don't think about it too much. Randall Bramblett, if you were a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would you be?
Tomato and bacon and white bread with a lot of mayonnaise.
That is a superb choice. Randall Bramblett, what is a song you wish you wrote?
God. All of John Prine's songs. Angel from Montgomery. What a song.
That's a hell of a choice. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Where did that come from?
Old rodeo. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just picks it out of somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, Randall, one more speed round question for you. What is your favorite word?
Favorite word?
What's your favorite word?
I can't say it. No, it's... I mean, really.
We're adults here. It's okay. If it's the F word, you can say it. It's a powerful word.
I think it's damn.
It's a fine choice.
It's a damn, you know, I've got to use that. I got to cuss all the time.
It's a very versatile word. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Randall Bramblett. I can't believe it. Randall Bramblett's on the boat.
Thank you, Max.
You're very welcome, my friend. Randall, I'd love it if you would stay up here with us. Maybe, you know, in classic Tonight Show fashion, maybe shift over one seat. You know, there we go. Good, good. But you've got a microphone there because our next guest is Bob Britt. If he's around, is Bob with us? Bob, are you in the room? Can we feel? Oh, here. Oh my! Look at this dramatic entrance from the back. Smart man. I love it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Have a seat, my friend.
Well, I had to be out front to listen to Randall.
Pretty fun, huh?
Yeah.
I like Randall a lot.
Awesome. I just met him backstage, and he called me Britt. Hey, Britt. Hey, Bramlett.
That's part of the joy of this boat for all of us, I think, is that sometimes we get to meet folks that we love that we just never actually got to meet in person. You know, it's a really neat thing for all of us. Bob, you started a part of your career with one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century, Leon Russell. I know. And I don't know that people know Leon, you know, perhaps they know part of his career. I don't think they understand how profound of a musician that he was. And I'd like to start there with you, if you don't mind. You were already an accomplished guitar player when you got into Leon's band. Can we just talk about what you learned from all of those years on the bus and on stage with Leon? I know that's a big question, but you know, not all of us got to sit in that chair. So I'm just dying to know.
Yeah, I pretty much credit Leon with the way I play. Everything, it came from him, really. I mean, I knew how to play guitar, but I flew. He was putting together like a rock band again. He had Newgrass Revival was his band for a spell, and their bluegrass thing. And anyway, they were leaving, and John Cowan was the bass player. He's now the bass player with the Doobie Brothers. But he recommended me, so I flew in and played for Leon, and John told me, just play like Freddie King.
That's always good advice.
Yeah.
Just as a rule, play like Freddie King.
So I just listened to Freddie for the 2 days before I flew out there, and I played, and he goes, "Yeah, you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." But really, I spent 10 years with Leon. I lived at his house for the first couple of years.
Was that in Nashville, or was
Yeah,
that in Oklahoma?
Hendersonville.
That was in Hendersonville, okay.
It was Boudleaux and Felice Bryant's old house on the lake. And they wrote Rocky Top. They wrote Bye Bye Love, all the Everly stuff. But back to Leon, really just playing with him, one of the main things I learned, whether purposefully or not, was the relationship with the bass notes to triads and how everything comes from that, really. It's hard to explain. Also, his timing, his feel, his groove, everything about him, I just absorbed, He would, sometimes consciously tell me things,
Sure.
Like initially when I went there, I probably played with too much treble on my guitar, and he'd say, "Yeah, turn that down," and you don't need all that overdrive, It should be cleaner and things like that. But mostly it was just osmosis.
If there was anyone to learn through via osmosis, I don't think you could pick a better mentor than Leon Russell. My God, man.
Yeah. And when we're on the road, he either drove or I drove. And
Leon Russell drove his own bus?
The bus, yeah. I mean,
Didn't
sometimes,
he play on Pet Sounds?
Yeah, we had a, yeah.
He played on Pet Sounds, and he drives his own bus.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. So we spent a lot of time together. And I really, I kind of almost looked at him as my second father.
Sure. Sure. What was the first song you played with him on stage? Do you remember where it started?
I don't remember the first song. I do remember the first gig. It was at the Agora Ballroom in Atlanta. And I think I was 22. And I remember walking out on stage, and I was standing there, and my knee was just going like that.
That's a hot seat to be in at 22 years old.
Yeah. I won't forget that feeling.
I'd imagine not.
Yeah.
Now, Leon is obviously a lot of our heroes. Growing up as a kid, Delbert McClinton was the soundtrack of my entire life. My parents had a 1984 Dodge wood panel Caravan, and the Live in Austin tape, I think it was a tape. I think it started as a tape, and then it moved to a CD. Parents got a little money, bought themselves, you know what I'm saying? We only had like 4 CDs. Live in Austin was one of them. You spoke into Delbert's music on such a profound level for such a long time, and I want to get into that, but I'm curious to know how you got that phone call. What was the piece that led you to all those great years with Delbert?
Well, I didn't actually get a call. I was at Kevin McKendry's studio.
Do we know who Kevin? We know Kevin is great piano player on board, the finest working blues piano player in America right now.
And I believe I was playing on something for the McCurry sisters, and Delbert was there, and Gary Nicholson was there. They were both there. They were just hanging out, and I went outside and was talking to Delbert, and we talked about some stuff, and I brought up Foy Vance, and he's how much. Steve Mackey turned me on to Foy Vance. He said, "You got to hear this guy." He was on the cruise. Brought him up, and Delbert said, "Oh, did you see him on the cruise?" I said, "No, I've never been on the cruise." And he said, "Well, why not?" And I said, "Well, I've not been playing with anybody on there." And he said, "Well, you want to come?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you and Ed come this year." Anyway, Rob McNally was his guitar player, and about a month before the cruise, Rob called and said, "I've got something that's come up, and I need to stay in Nashville, and would you mind playing with Delbert?
Just a little favor. Would you mind playing with the great
And
White Soul
would you
singer?
mind playing with the McCreary Sisters and Mike Ferris and maybe somebody else?
He goat roped you into the whole thing, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, he threw the book at you.
I was going to come, Ed and I were coming just to come and hang out, and I ended up working, and that's how I really kind of started playing with Delbert was here. Well, no, I had played 2 shows. I'd sub for Rob. They were having a baby. But really coming here is what kind of hooked me in with Delbert.
Bob, you might have heard of a musician. He's played on a few records, a guy named Leland Sklar.
I
Does that
have.
ring a bell? Leland talks about these funny little hinge moments. You know, if you're just, sometimes you're in the room, and next thing you know, you're on a boat, and next thing you know, you're producing a Grammy-winning record for Delbert McClinton.
Yeah.
Bob Britt, yeah. If I can just tell you a funny story, the Mavericks were touring in England, and I was walking around the lobby, and this record comes on the little PA system. The building was empty, and I was like, "Good God, this is nasty. What? This is the best shit I've ever heard. Who is this?" And I get out my little phone, and the speaker was like way up there, and I've got my Shazam, and I'm like jumping up so they can try to hear it. And I'm like, "God, who is this?" And I miss it the first time, and I have to do it again. I have to do it 3 times, and finally the little thing spins, and it pulled up, and it was the record that you produced for Delbert, actually. I ran into that record for the first time and thought about you, because I looked it up, and it's like, who produced this little gem? And it was you.
And Kevin.
And Kevin.
Yeah.
You guys co-produced that. What led you to that moment, stepping out of a player role and into a producer role? Because if I'm not mistaken, Delbert won the Grammy for that record at 80 years old, I think. What a great bookend to one of the finest careers in American music. I always wanted to thank you for giving all of us that gift and for giving him that gift. You know, sometimes we don't always, just what a great swan song in a way to go out at the absolute top. So thank you for letting me shed that on you. But what was the moment when you said, you know what, man, I'm playing for you, but now, by God, we're going to make a record together?
There was never any moment like that. It was just a natural progression. You know, we wrote together. Kevin and myself and Delbert, we'd take trips down, and Mike Joyce, we'd take trips down to Mexico to his place there in San Miguel and write songs, and until we had enough songs that we thought we could make a record with. Sure. And then we'd just make a record, you know? Don't think about it.
It's that easy. Bob Britt wakes up in the morning, puts on his pants, and produces a Grammy-winning record. It's a beautiful thing. Bob, you're one of my favorite musicians. You're one of my favorite producers. Thank you for agreeing to let me grill you. Are you ready for some very fast and stupid questions?
I don't know.
Okay. You had a little more time to think about this than Randall did. Bob Britt, if you were a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would you be?
A BLT.
Birds of a feather. Go figure. If you could have another musician's career, which musician would you pick? That's a savage one, isn't it? Woo. Take a moment.
Leland Sklar. I think there have been. I've kind of always wished I'd have been a drummer.
I get that, sure.
Just because I think it'd be so much fun to use all 4 appendages, you know. But yeah, I don't know. That's I couldn't tell you. You know, there's so many amazing musicians. Yeah, I got no answer for you.
That's okay. But I think you've given us a great segue to one of the finest darn musicians of the 20th century. What better time than now? Leland is taping this for his YouTube channel. Ironically, let me just say this. If you're not following Leland Sklar on his social media, not only is he one of the best players ever, but he's one of the finest interviews and documentarians of music that he participates in. Leland was out there today recording Wendy Moten's set because he wanted to share Wendy Moten's music with his audience. And what a profound act of generosity. Sometimes people are successful because they just love music and they really enjoy helping other people. Let's welcome Leland Sklar, everybody. Bob, if you don't mind shifting over one, we'll give Leland the hot seat here.
Thanks, sir. You rascal, you. This is fabulous. Look at all of you. This is fantastic. Give yourself a round of applause. This is really...
Good grief, man. I've been such a fan of your channel for so long. It's like, I can't believe it's actually you. I've been watching you on so many screens for all this time. Thank you for doing this.
It is my pleasure.
It's very kind of you. You've played on so many records that are so important to us. Carole King's Tapestry record, James Taylor's Sweet Baby James. You're on my favorite Vince Gill record. You made one of the greatest jazz fusion records of the 1970s. You played with Neil Sedaka. Your career describes the entirety of 20th century music. When you wake up in the morning... No, go ahead, yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about, the Spectrum record is a monster, man. God, it's so fun. When you wake up in the morning, do you have a process for getting ready to go into the studio? Is there a ritual? Is there anything that you do that gets you ready to confront the music that you're about to play?
No. Generally, when I'm going to work, I have no idea what I'm showing up for. You know, you get a work call, and you go and you just pray that you don't suck when you get there. It's always that musician's anxiety about, am I going to cut the gig?
Yeah.
But generally, I really don't have any prep. You just you make sure the ethics of a studio musician. You make sure that if it's a 10 o'clock date, you're there at 9. If you're there at 10, you're late. And you go in and you figure out what's going on. You get set up, and if there are charts, you kind of peruse through them just to see if there's anything that you really need to grab early, so that you're ready when the clock hits the downbeat. You're ready to work at that point. But really, you just show up, and it's also exciting when you show up and you look and there's cases in there of guys who you love playing with, and then you know that, like, for me, Jeff Porcaro was one of my dearest friends, and whenever I'd show up at the studio, I'd see his kit set up there. I knew today was going to be a great day, regardless.
Any day with Jeff Porcaro is a good day.
Yeah, it was amazing. Reuben sandwich, by the way, that's what just wanted to get that one out of the way.
I know that Leland thinks he's getting off the hook early. I assure you he's not. I've had months to prepare.
It comes with sides.
Fries?
Fries crisp.
Crisp.
Yeah. That's the important part of music. Every time we get to a date, everybody's already talking about what they're going to get for lunch.
An army fights on its stomach.
Yeah.
If you're hungry, if you're hangry, you're just not going to have a good day. A good catering really goes a long way.
Okay.
You have had hits in almost every genre of music. You've had great success in Nashville. You've had great success in LA. You've had great success in New York. Do you change any part of your approach depending on the genre?
Well, yeah. I mean, you would modify what you're doing depending on the genre, but for the most part, I don't change tone. I don't really change my approach or what I do. But you as a studio player, you kind of have a built-in Rolodex in your head of what the demands are of that. If I'm getting called for a reggae date, I play a little differently than I would on a funk date or on a jazz date, but not that much. I mean, I've been really lucky that I've been sort of a chameleon that's been able to drift through all of these things and not have to change that much to accommodate everything. But but you're aware. You listen to a lot of music so that you're never the master of one, but you're kind of good at a whole lot of different things. So you can kind of cut it, and nobody knows the difference. I'm not Robbie Shakespeare in Dunbar when I get called for a reggae date, but I can fake my way through.
You can approximate it.
Yeah.
Leland, on your bass, and this is a piece of musician's lore that maybe our audience isn't familiar with. This, I think, is one of the greatest pieces of psychology in music history. Could you tell us about the producer switch?
I was doing I think it might have been Airwolf or one of those TV shows. We did lots of TV shows. And I was sitting where I am right now, and where you are would have been the great Tommy Tedesco, who was probably one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived. And there were always baffles set up. And it was a big orchestra on the date at Universal Studios. And you kind of look like Kilroy. All they're seeing is just this much of you. And the conductor was across the room, and he was going, Tommy, on this one, could you play mandolin on it? So Tommy would bend over, couldn't see what was going on. He'd sit back up and play, and the guy would go, no, that's not. He went through like a half a dozen instruments he wanted Tommy to play till they found the right sound. And I'm shitting my pants laughing, because Tommy only had his acoustic guitar with him, and he just kept bending over and sitting back up. But he was so good that he played, and it sounded different every time he sat up. And when the date was over, I looked at him. I said, I just learned more in 5 minutes how this business works than all my years of education. So I immediately went home, and I drilled a hole in my bass and stuck a Switchcraft toggle switch in it. Didn't have any wires or anything going to it. But when a producer would ask, can you make this shimmer or mauve? I would make sure they saw me flip the switch, and then I would just change my position. and it was, so it got me out of a whole lot of crap that I would have really been chasing. And the thing that was really great was back when Bass Player magazine was a hard copy magazine and not online, every April they would put fake ads in it. It's like April Fool's stuff. And on one of them they put in my producer switch. And I was so stupid that I didn't go out and buy like a gross of these things, because they were like $1 a piece, and they had it in there. It was like $25 for this switch, and it was all fake. I mean, it was as fake as the switch was, but it was just one of those things. Watching Tommy work, he was the greatest education to me. I feel so blessed that for those of you who are familiar with the Wrecking Crew, who were really, the great players of primarily the 60s, I came in right at the tail end of that, so I got to work with Hal Blaine and all of those different players in that, and they were like mentors, because I was in a band in '67 called Group Therapy, and we were not allowed to play on a record. That was the first date I attended, and it was the Wrecking Crew played on a record. And then I thought I could never do this, watching them work, and then by 3 years later, I was working with them every day. And just the education that to be around those people was really something.
If I can follow up on that, Leland,
Sure.
What was the record that got you onto that floor? What was the moment that you became part of that group?
It was Gypsy Woman with Brian Hyland was the first record I played on. And because Brian Hyland, he was produced by Del Shannon. And when I started with James Taylor in 1970, the first gig we played was at the Troubadour in Los Angeles. And I had not recorded with James at that point, but we had met, and he asked me to do the gig. But Brian Hyland and Del Shannon were at that gig, and then they called me and Russ Kunkel, actually, to play on Brian's record at that point. So that was the beginning of recording. And it was the weirdest period back then, because when we started with James became the face of a new direction in music, and none of us had any experience in the studio, and all of a sudden we were the first call guys in town, and we were really learn while you earn moment there, because we had no idea what the etiquette of the studio was, how to get sounds and all that. So it was a challenging but intoxicating period. I loved it.
You were there for a shift in the sound of music.
A quantum shift.
Indeed.
In stuff. So,
Which leads to another question. You've been a part of some of the most important records of multiple decades, music tends to sort of make that shift every 5 years and a quantum shift every 10. Mm-hmm. How do you listen? How do you keep track of sort of where the ball is heading? Just driving around in your car, man, that's groovy. Or what's
Well, you listen a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, because I love music, so I mean, I'm listening all the time, and I'm really not genre specific. I started out as a classical pianist when I was 5 years old, so bass was an accident for me, actually. But you just be aware of it all, and I always just kind of one of my personal mantras was, don't become an old fart. Don't be the guy that's always sitting there going, "Oh, there hasn't been anything good since Inagata Davida," and that wasn't even any good. I mean, it's just, but you just keep aware of it. I mean, I still end up working with a lot of artists that are like in their late teens and early 20s and stuff, and you have to be ready to work with them at that point. And their world is very different than the one that I grew up in. But I really like to go with the energy and the flow of whatever's happening right now. And certainly, I mean, you don't go in there and start telling people you should have been there when this was all analog and all that, because you just sound like grandpa at that point. But if they want to talk about it, then it's wonderful to talk about the experience of that. But the whole process has changed so much at this point but I'm just grateful to still be a working musician at this point.
And sounding as good as ever, my friend. Is there a record that you played on that you would like for our audience to be aware of? One that maybe didn't become as popular as some of the giant hits you played on, but one that you thought, man, I really wish more people knew about this one.
There's a lot of those.
I'm sure.
I mean,
there are.
it's so weird, I mean, you'll work on a record, and sometimes you'll sit there and go, "This is the worst piece of crap I ever played on," and it becomes a major hit. And other things you worked on that thought were the best thing you ever played on, and they never even get released. But I think really one of the most perfect records for me that I ever played on was Neil Sedaka's "Laughter in the Rain."
I agree.
I mean, when I listen to that, every part of that just is right. Neil was such a beautiful cat to work with and stuff. But it's really hard to disseminate all of that stuff. But I do dig back into, because of my YouTube channel, I've had to do forensics into my career, and I find stuff that I forgot all about, and I'm going, oh God, this is really cool. This is,
If you follow Leland's YouTube channel, he'll feature a track that he played on. You played, I think it was a Christian pop band, maybe Avalon or one of those. And
yeah.
It's a band that I never would have found, but you showcased it recently on your channel, and it was a beautiful track and a beautiful moment.
Yeah, there's so much of that out there that you just keep digging around, and it's fun. And I also wanted to say, people ask me a lot of times, is there anybody you haven't played with that you would love to? Winwood. I love Winwood so much. And,
Randall, could you make a call?
And the work you
maybe
did
help Leland, help this young man find his way to.
But the work you did with Steve, and it's just incredible. And when you guys went out with Russ and Michael and stuff, I saw that tour, and it was just something to behold. I think Back in the High Life is probably one of the best records.
Could not agree more.
Yeah.
Leland, are you ready for some very fast and stupid questions?
Not after hearing that shit go down. Wow. Let's just go for it and see what happens.
Leland Sklar, if you were a car, what kind of car would you be?
Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a 34 panel truck.
Woo-hoo.
I love panel trucks, and I love 30s cars. I had a T-Bucket at one point, but I'm more partial to 30s, and I love the grill of a 34 Ford.
Yes, sir. Leland, you're one of the finest musicians in the world. If you could have another musician's career, who would you pick?
Elmer Bernstein.
Why?
Yeah, I think when I listened to West Side Story and I listened to everything Elmer ever did. I mean, Elmer too. I worked on a movie with Elmer Bernstein, and when it was over, we were talking, and he said when he got called to do To Kill a Mockingbird, they thought they hired the other Bernstein.
Oh my God!
And he had to come up with the goods at that point because he was underwater. But I would be Leonard Bernstein. When I listen to Leonard's music, I'm just completely, he or Aaron Copland. That's the world I grew up in.
Heard. A beautiful answer. And lastly, Leland, if you could have one superpower for one day, what would you pick?
Regularity. Got the right crowd.
I got to be honest, I was so proud when I wrote that question, and that was not the answer. It was not what I was expecting.
I also want to say you killed it today with Wendy.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
That set out there was great.
I want everybody to know that I'm retiring as of today. Leland Sklar thinks I played good. That's it. I'm done. Thank you. Lastly, Leland, before we wrap up here, I was just wondering, out of all the records you played on, is there one that you're most proud of where you think, man, I really love the way that this one came out?
That's really impossible. It really is, because I can look back to like all the James Taylor and Doctor My Eyes with Jackson and Stratus with Billy Cobb, but they all have their own thing about them. I really tend to look forward. I've just finished another album with really, if you're not familiar with her, if you go on YouTube, look up Lari, L-A-R-I, Basilio. She's a guitarist from Brazil, and Vinny Colaiuta and I just did her new record, and she's a monster. She's so good. So I'm always looking that way.
There's a reason the windshield is bigger than the rear view.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leland, it's such an honor to have you. Thank you for
pleasure.
doing this. Folks, thank you for joining us. This was a dumb idea I had last year, and by God, look at what happened. So much fun. Please welcome Randall Bramblett. Randall's going to be here very soon. Please welcome Bob Britt. And please give it up for Leland Sklar, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We got a few more of these coming. Please join us again. Thank you.